morning and welcome to a Friday edition of SimWorld today, November 1st. It's my dad's birthday, so happy birthday to Dad. He doesn't know this thing exists probably since I've told him many times, but we're going to tell him in person as well. I'm Marsh, joined on this Friday by Rick Blaze. Good morning, Rick. How are you?
Hey, happy days are here again. It is Freaky Friday, November 1st. My mom's birthday is November 4th, and she does know this exists. So there you have it.
Hey, this isn't for lack of trying. Let me promise you that. It's just more of a rather not be seen type of deal. All right, we got a lot to get to. We're going to talk. We had the night off in SimWorld U and a very late night in SWBA. So we're going to talk a little bit of the quad predictions here with the first month of the regular season officially in the books. We're talking a little bit of big board. But unfortunately for Rick, and this is not a targeted attack for him, we have to start with the Houston Texans on Thursday night losing to the New York Jets. 21-13 in a game that really the Texans should have put this thing away early on. Their defense was great. The Jets' offense was atrocious. But Rick, your takeaways?
It was a really quirky game. It was one of those games you had people scoring touchdowns that they dropping the ball before they scored the actual touchdowns. You have people missing field goals and doinking other field goals. It was a really quirky game. Listen, the Texans have had offensive line issues all season, and yesterday was no different. 8 sacks, what they gave up. Also, they're missing 2 of their top 3 wide receivers who are out. Diggs is done for the year, and Nico Collins probably won't be back to next year. All that said, Texas still had opportunity to win the game. They did not. The Jets were desperation mode. If they would have lost this game, their season would have been over. So you got a desperate Jets team at home against a banged-up Texans team. Aaron Rodgers is really good in prime time on Thursday Night Football as well. So it was just a perfect. They was already a 2-point underdog coming into it. It was the perfect storm, and the Jets found a way to pull it out. That catch is still a little bit, questionable to me. I've never heard of 1 foot plus a shin means 2 feet. When Sunday you had 2 feet tapped by 1 foot by the other person on another team, and it was a non-catch. So I'm confused on what a catch is again. We need to start this whole thing over because I'm not sure what a catch. It was a fantastic attempt, fantastic catch, but I'm not sure what a legal catch is anymore because I think they changed the rules week by week.
So I can tell you that the answer to that is that it's 2 body parts need to be down. What I don't like is that it can be the same leg because you're not making possession. Like, unless you're, missing a leg, I don't think that it should be your leg and shin of the same body part. That is not 2 feet.
Yeah, because there was a
not
catch.
2 feet.
I forgot the player name. When there was a catch on Sunday, the player tapped the same foot twice, and they didn't.
So that should be right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, how is that? How is the shin any? Like, that's something I'm not more possessed because I've got a shin down. No, I agree with you. I do not like that rule. It was an incredible catch. It was Garrett Wilson. Look, here, this is why I don't like Thursday Night Football, and I'm going to say this to deaf ear, because nobody is going to change this because dollars make sense for Thursday Night Football. The Jets aren't better than the Texans, but on 3 days rest, they become better. And even at halftime, you had Richard Sherman begging people to stay on to watch the second half of a football game to look at their costumes, not to watch the game. The Thursday night product is awful, and the Texans losing this game is such an abnormality. Like, yes, the Texans could have gone on the road to lose to the Jets on Sunday, but the Jets just lost to the Patriots, and the Patriots are maybe the worst team in the entire league. I do not like Thursday Night Football because it gives us this fake idea of what the two teams are. And in this case, the Jets are beneficiaries of it, and the Texans are probably going to lose a chance at getting a top 2 seed in the AFC because of this game. And as much as I might be a Jaguars fan and not root for the other teams in the AFC South, that's still not a fair way to judge our football teams over the long haul. Could they have lost on Sunday? Sure. Would they have lost? I find that very hard to believe. because it's tough for me to watch this game and have any viable takeaways. I didn't think Aaron Rodgers looked that great. I didn't think C.J. Stroud looked that great. The Jets' defense was sometimes good, but then Joe Mixon went nuts on him. The Texans' defense was sometimes good, but then Breece Hall went nuts on him at times. To me, it's just such a... I don't really have a great takeaway outside of one. I'm with you. I don't think that's a catch. I just think that we need to... Like, how was Dez Bryant not a catch against the Packers, but somehow that is? And then... at the same time, I don't think it's a true representation of the two teams that played. So it's really like saying a week 1 game and not overreacting. Hey, the Jets are still alive. This was a must-win game, and they came out with a win. Yep. But I'm not going to hold it against the Houston Texans. All right, let's head to SimWorld U, where the Bleacher Report big board dropped yesterday. Trip Chalamet, any relation to Timothy, who knows? No surprise. Again, reminder, this is the big board, not the draft board. I think we might be seeing that in the not-too-distant future. So big board is just ranking the prospects in college basketball. And surprise, surprise, Cooper Flagg's number 1, Jameson Johnson 2, Trey Turner 3. Of the players in the top 10, just as quick reference, only 2 of them, Dylan Harper and Cooper Flagg, cannot be drafted in the upcoming season. Actually, as we look down, Japheth Towns at 17 is a freshman that can't come out. Again, we're just making sure everybody knows. So only 3 players in this top 30 can actually be draft eligible. But Rick, your takeaways, anyone too high, too low, your thoughts?
I think the top 10 overall is not a bad list. I'm not as sold on Carl Holmes at 8. I think that's a bit high for him. He's a good talent. Not saying he can't be an 8. I think 8 is a little bit high. If I really want to nitpick this thing, I think Carl Holmes at 8, and I'm a Houston Tech, and I'm from Houston. I think Carl Holmes at 8 is a bit high. Other than that, listen, I'm going to say this. I've said this before. Yeah, I'm just gonna say Carl Holmes at 8. I'm nitpicking. I'm looking at Mbako at 18. But you said top 10. But in that top 10 list,
anywhere though. No, you can go anywhere. I was just saying freshman.
Yeah, Carl Holmes at 8 is a bit high for me. Mbako at 18. I think we're still giving him a lot of credit for the talent, but I think his play has just been okay.
I've actually really. I think that one might be Mbako might be a situation where the team's lack of success is hurting him more than anything, because he's actually been, in my opinion, pretty good. 7 rebounds per game, 19 points. He's shooting 38% from deep through 3 games. I actually think he's been pretty efficient. My takeaway, well, one, the biggest one, and it should come as no surprise to anybody who's listened to me in the last 5 days. Donta Walker at 30 to me is far too low. 6'8", 220.
You're really high on this Donta Walker guy.
I am.
I don't know how high. Well, I don't know how high you are, but you like this Donta Walker guy
I sure do.
A lot.
I sure do. 40% shooting.
I want to see some more. I want to see some more of them before I jump on board with you. But I see you're driving the truck right now. You're all the way in. You are sniffing the Kool-Aid. You're in on Donta Walker.
We have brought together. I'm kind of put a train together. I'm not riding the bus. I'm the conductor of a train. I've added a second car to the train. The first one is Ireland Early, who comes in at 16 on this list. And the second one added to my train is Donta Walker. 40% shooter from deep, 20 points per game, nearly 4 assists per game. He's 6'8". He can defend across the perimeter, even muscle it up with big guys underneath. There's not a lot of holes to his game, in my opinion, that if I'm sitting at 30, this is a bargain. But my main takeaway from this is, as I'm looking up and down this list, there aren't really too many guys that I'm like, wow, that guy at this spot. I mean, there's some good basketball players. By the way, Keandre Baldwin is the 4th freshman on this list. I want to make sure that I'm clarifying that. If we're looking at Jermaine McLemore at 23 on this big board, and he was last season's quad most valuable player, that is a steal. Dominic Bianco at 22. Shea King, maybe he's a little high at 21, but this is one of the deepest classes that I can remember. I think maybe Pooh Lewis could be a guy that you say is a little high, but Ireland early at 16, D. Woodley at 15, Caden Shipp at 14. We just saw Caden Shipp on primetime television have a night. This is an incredibly deep class going to the SWU.
Where was DJ? Let me ask you, where's DJ Charles on that list?
He's not on it, and based on what he's produced.
That's my issue.
But he has not been all that productive.
I think the same argument you're going to have with Mbako talking about the team is the same with DJ Charles. He hasn't had to been. Last year, he was all-world because he had to be all-world. The team is very deep this year. He doesn't need to be all-world, and so he's been, I think, penalized. That doesn't mean he's less void of talent. That just means he's not having to do as much as he had to do previously.
Well, he's been a great playmaker. 4 assists per game, leads Alabama. But yeah, Quincy Henderson has erupted. Dwayne Epps has kind of arrived on the scene. I mean, you're just seeing a different version. I think you're spot on with that. I mean, DJ Childs, if you're getting him in the second round, he was a top high school prospect. Might be kind of limited by his ankle injury that he suffered in preseason. But yeah, to your point, that's depth that I don't know that I've ever seen before in college basketball. Or maybe I'm just not paying close enough attention. Maybe I've got some rose-colored glasses on. But this is an exceptionally deep class right now. And 4 of them, 2 of the top 5, are not even going to be draft eligible this coming season. All right, let's head to a little look ahead, just like we just did. But let's go team version, and we're talking the quad prediction. So 1 month in, Rick, your 4 teams that you expect to see in the quad.
Listen, this is going to be maybe a shock to some, maybe not. But I think there's some teams that sitting at the top that they have some concerns. And so the teams that have the most concerns about, I'm not going to mention in this quad. So the teams that have least concerns about. So basically my quad is the 4 teams that have the least concerns about, starting with Kentucky. Right? Kentucky is still undefeated, 7-0, doing their thing. I can't say anything much about them, the inside-out offense and defense. I got to go with Duke, 5-1. The one loss, we can call it a fluke, call it what you want, but those guys are serious. Alabama is my 3rd team. The same with, I can say for Duke, I can say for Alabama, 1 loss, call it a fluke. One play this way, one play that way. You have a different scenario. And my 4th team, I like those guys at UConn.
Okay.
I like their team setup. I think as the season goes longer, they're going to get better, and that's scary because they're going to get better. They have a lot of young guys on their team that plays a lot of big minutes for the team. They're going to get better, and I think they're going to be there. They have just as good chance as anyone else to be there in the quad at the end of the day.
I'll start by saying this. I think it's tough to do a prediction for the quad because of how volatile. Last season, the lack of upsets that we saw was kind of stunning. The fact that we got 4 of the top 8 seeds in college basketball, pretty abnormal. So typically you see a little bit more of these upsets. So I think though these 4 are actually going to be there is challenging. Plus, of course, wherever they get placed. So I like how you did it. So I'll mirror that in terms of who am I least concerned about. Kentucky's on my list. Gonzaga's on my list. Duke is not on my list because I'm very concerned about their backcourt. I am not concerned about Cooper Flagg, and I'm not concerned about Roderick Little. I am concerned about the rest of their backcourt against good basketball teams, and will they be able to be a good defensive team time and time again. But I'm going to add onto my list Mississippi State, who I really like the depth of that basketball team. I'm not stoked about them, but I'm also not concerned about them. I think that they have multiple options that can be very dangerous for this crew. They have a bunch of guys who can play up to a higher level, plus Terrell Pearson. And then the last one, we haven't seen a lot of them, and I think that's why maybe they're not getting a lot of talked about right now, is UCLA. I still am very high on Jalen Snow. Actually, as I think about this, Jalen Snow at 11 seems very low for me on that big board, but I'm very high on Jalen Snow. I don't think we've seen a ton of UCLA for us to be able to have. They've only played 5 games. Meanwhile, UConn's played 7. Kentucky's played 7. Duke has played 6. Gonzaga's played 6. Like, they've been on TV a lot more. I think that once we see a little bit more UCLA, I think it's going to be a little bit more obvious for them on who that team can be. That's not to say that your pick of Alabama, pick of Duke is wrong. I think it's so early in the season. I think we're well aware of that going into this segment. But to me, Kentucky, Gonzaga, because I love Caden Shipp, the depth that we've seen from Mississippi State, and then, of course, UCLA. I'm leaving Georgia Tech off that list.
I like you going off the limb with the Georgia with the SIP. I like that. I have issues with their closer. Who closes the game? You need a bucket. 30 seconds left. I don't know if it's Mississippi State who you go to. I guess it's the high hand at the time. But other than that, that's why I like Duke. Because when the game's on the line, I know who I'm going to, and he's going to be a tough stop no matter who you put on him when the game is on the line. At the end of the game, it's about a bucket, and you got to have somebody who can get that bucket no matter what. When everybody in the stadium know who the ball is going to, and no one still can stop it, I love Duke for that reason alone.
Yeah, I like that Mississippi State has pretty much a 7-man rotation, right? They've got their 5 starters who, by the way, each of them are scoring in double figures. And then you've got Issa Bob and you've got Mickey Dowell, both of them getting 13 minutes. Nobody else is above 7 minutes per game. Yeah. And so to me, I just like that they said, look, this is who we are. These are our guys that can go out and play good basketball for us, and barring any injury setbacks, we're going to ride these guys. We're going to ride our dogs, and we're going to see what happens with it. And I appreciate that. It's obviously something I've called for many years, so seeing it at the college level, just, we don't need to mess around with somebody who's not going to be productive for us unless they prove otherwise, throw them in a blowout and see what happens. All right, that is our show. We're coming back on Monday. We've got a full slate of basketball coming up today on SimWorld Hoops.
March. We can't leave until you tell everyone what you wore for Halloween yesterday. What was your Halloween costume?
So my Halloween costume wasn't yesterday. We had, we went during the weekend. Me and the wife went as the sisters from The Shining.
Okay. Yeah. You had on the stockings and everything?
Sure did. Barely fit into a little, dress.
I need pictures. I need those incriminating pictures. Absolutely.
I'll be sure to provide. And you went as what?
A black man from the South.
I'm really stepping on a limb.
Hey, it was a killer costume. I'll say that.
I bet.
It was to die for. It was the type of costume to die for.
Take that as you will. All right, that is our show. We're coming back on Monday as SimWorld SWFL reactions, SimWorld U reactions, full slate of games coming up today, and then anything else that may come up over this first weekend of November. Thanks for tuning in. We're back on Monday here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
Go vote.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sport.